I guess we can get things started. I know there's enough people in here to get the party rolling. Welcome everybody to another Hotel Owners Academy. This one is called Defensive Revenue Management Protocol, Protecting the Revenue Hoteliers Already Earned. And we are here with Frank McColhay, who is the founder of McColhay Associates. I'm going to leave his information up for just a few moments so everyone can take it down. And then I will return back to this slide later in the presentation just for those who join in later. So just leave it up for just a moment. And for those who don't know me, I am Michael Schwartz. I'm the programs manager of education and membership experiences here at AHOA. So with that said, I'm going to stop sharing that screen and I'm going to jump into our conversation. Frank, hotel owners hear a great deal about increasingly, with occupancy, improving rates, managing expenses, using technology to produce more revenue. We're discussing a different side of revenue management today, though. And so, with that said, my first question to you is, what exactly is defensive revenue management? It's a mouthful. And why did you believe the hotel industry needed a new category?
Well, to me, it's obvious because of my history, especially over the last 40 years, working with every kind of business out there, and being an entrepreneur myself. The importance of revenue management is incredible. It's important. I want you to look at it as the ceiling, where your revenue management companies that all of the hoteliers are using and should continue to use. They have a value in the marketplace, but that's to increase the revenue. And whether it's the rates, the occupancy, the demand forecasting, the weather, the storms, the COVID, it's very important to have that information. But I think it's critically important, Michael, to defend the revenue you've already made, to save the money you've already put in there. And that's it's whether it's operational efficiency, but that's why I felt they needed it, and it addresses the negligent side, the neglected side, which most people are aware of, but they're not aware of. Um,
Right. Right.
and you want me to tell you what the neglected side is?
Well,
Just bullet point?
I want to hear about the neglected side, and I don't know if my next follow-up question is on
Right.
par with it, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, let's take the next question and blend them together because
Okay.
I think this is the most important part of what we're going to talk about today is to the folks on the webinar, there's nothing for sale here. This is information you've probably heard sometime in your hospitality career, but it's on the back burner. It's out of sight, it's out of mind. And our purpose here is to bring this to the top of your mind and see if it's relevant, see if it's something that you should look at a little bit closer. That's what we want you to take away with today, Michael.
Right. Right. And speaking of questions, I'm going to be asking you lots of questions, but I did want to let the audience attendees know that as usual, we have a Q&A box. So if you have any questions during this presentation session, feel free to shoot it in. I'll read it and I'll ask Frank, accordingly in between my questions. Just wanted to mention that. I'll probably mention it again. So you wanted me to answer or ask you my next question. So you say protect the revenue you already earned, but what does that mean in practical terms for a hotel owner?
Well, it's where could they get hit? Um, Look, the number one thing that when I talk to the hoteliers at all the conferences is ADA complaints, ADA lawsuits, American Disability. But it's much, much, much deeper than just the surface ADA. There are so many components to it. And the question is, are you adhering to them? Are you teaching them? Are you tracking them and keeping incidents recorded so that if you did end up with a complaint or an investigation or a fine, you're going to be in an affirmative position and not a defensive position. Could be data breaches, payroll, vendor issues, employee turnover. It's hard right now in the job market to get people that want to come to work. Well, what's worse is when you're losing the good people you had because of other issues, which we're going to cover a little bit deeper. Compliance fines, management distraction. When managers are distracted with the little things that they didn't know, they were blindsided, or it came out of a gap, then it just throws their whole day off, the whole week off, the whole projections off. And that could lead to, again, errors, distraction, and disattention in the workplace, Michael. And then you've got the damage to the guest reputation. You got, when the guest is not happy, you lose revenue. When the guest is not happy, you get poor reviews. When the guest is not happy, and it doesn't happen because an incident happened, it could be, Michael, that a couple of the employees were going back and forth, treating each other rude or disrespectful. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to be involved in it. So revenue protection begins by recognizing not that uh, every loss starts with a financial on the accounting sheet. It starts when the incident happened. It doesn't show up on the balance sheet until after the fines and the fees and the court appearances occur.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It sounds like it's a lot to be preemptively prepared for anything. We were talking about that before, anything can happen. So this is right on par. So I guess my next question for you is, many hotel owners are skeptical when they hear about another program, a platform, a consultant. Why should they view DRMP, Defensive Revenue Management Protocol, differently?
Because it's not another disconnected product. It's not another disconnected motivational training. It's none of that. Those are the things that people don't want to go to. Oh, we got another staff meeting. We got another training meeting. What am I going to learn? It's not that at all. It's an actual architecture that provides and identifies all of the gaps that you may have in your operating system right now. It prioritizes exposure when you see these gaps come up. It connects with existing resources that you could have in a learning management system to go in there and get the information. You don't have to depend on Google or you don't have to depend on Google Law or any of those things. But you've actually got something to identify the architecture, prioritize what needs to be done, connect with the existing resources or escalate it to them, training the people, training the information for the frontline people. That is so important today. But how do we have time for it when we're doing it? And so we show you how it can be done 24 by 7. And then reviewing the system over time. Because there's one thing we know, things are going to change. And in the age of AI, they're changing at light speed. So the important takeaway here is that hoteliers that they don't need a shelf full of solutions. What they need is the system that shows them how to have continuity, whether they're an independent hotelier, Michael, or they're one of the larger management firms that have 50, 100, 200 hotels under assignment, right? They have
Makes
to have
sense.
continuity. It's critical.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I know, for some of these bigger fish, so to speak, they've got multiple divisions. They got so many people working and, one hand doesn't talk to the other or however it is. And yep.
That's a key point right there, Michael. Right? They may have a HR department, they may have a risk management department, they have a rev department, they have all of their growth departments. But then everybody says, well, that's not my purview, that's not my problem. Somebody else will take care of it. Well, they're saying that here, and over here they're saying the same thing, and that's the gaps that I'm talking about. The
Yeah.
gaps.
Yeah. Makes complete sense. So I guess, speaking of gaps and things adjacent to it, threats specifically, what are the biggest hidden threats that hotel owners tend to underestimate?
There's multiple ones. Again, you could schedule 3 more of these webinars and we could cover them. But
Yeah.
real bullet
Yeah.
point,
Yep.
legal and regulatory exposure, probably the biggest one. Okay, and I ask them, say, well, what are you doing about your legal and regulatory? Well, I've got an attorney. Okay, how much they charge? Well, I don't know, 3, 4, 500 an hour. Okay, open up your wallet. How about identity theft risk and data risk? What happens if you have an identity theft breach? What happens if you have a data management breach? What happens if it's human error? You own it. You own it. And one breach can bankrupt anybody. AI enabled fraud. Are you prepared to defend against AI enabled fraud? Cloning, deep fake, impersonations. They actually run webinars just like we're doing right now, Michael,
But it's fake.
with 7 or 8 people are fake, and then one person, the CFO, is doing it, and it happened on a multinational company out of Hong Kong 2 years ago. He transferred $26 million to seven different entity banks and didn't find out about it till the following Tuesday. He was the only human on the call. Now, once that money leaves because it was directed by him, it's vanished. We can go into business email compromise. We can go into workplace conflict. We can go into staff instability. We can go into, again, we talk about ADA. Let's not forget about the sister corporation out there. I love the government. They got all these initials, right? What about OSHA? Are you compliant with all the OSHA responsibilities that you should have as the hotelier? They say, well, I don't deal with all those chemicals. You do. I don't deal with all that food safety. If you got a continental breakfast out there, or you got a full breakfast out there, or you got a full restaurant out there, you do. And what about, Michael, PCI, the payment card industry?
Yeah.
What happens if we have violations there? And to all my hoteliers or any business owner that's on this call, what happens if you have those fines? They're huge. Now, I'm not trying to frighten anybody here. I'm just, again, trying to say that these are the things that we need to be looking at and we need to be aware of. Because imagine if you lost your payment card rights. How do you stay in business, Mike? And then, of course, you got reputation. And then you got weak escalation procedures because the key is the most expensive risk is often the one that no single individual brought to the forelight to be attended to. That's
Yeah.
the key risk.
It's a very like innocent bystander situation, and I
Mm-hmm.
know you and I have talked about this in the past. I'm sure we'll get to it later about, your frontline defense, so to speak.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I
that's
guess
important.
we'll stay tuned for that one. But my next question to you is, how can one you mentioned a lot of these like potential threats and situations that can be very poorly end poorly for the owner. Can you say like is there one incident really that could really like one incident that could erase months of work spent improving occupancy rates and profitability and things of that nature?
Absolutely, absolutely. You may have an incredible revenue management program in place, and it's escalating, it's refining itself, and it's bringing in more revenue. Um, but if you have, and I want the hoteliers just to ask this because they know what their net operating income is, whether it's 10%, 11%, 12%, whatever it is. But ask yourself this: if you had just one breach in any of the things that we previously talked about, and it sums up to $100,000 between the legal and the compliance and the retribution and fixing it, it's easy to see 100,000. Ask yourself, how much brand new revenue do you need to create to recover that $100,000 payout? And if you're at 10%, that's $1 million in brand new revenue on that one event. So, yes, Michael, they can spend months building the revenue, and one incident could set them back significantly.
And you're saying that one incident could be a smorgasbord of potentials, whether
Any
it,
one of the things we
yeah.
just covered, or it could be multiple. Maybe you only got a $25,000 fine on OSHA. Maybe you got a $5,000 fine on an ADA because you didn't have the guest room properly set up, or you didn't have it set up, or you didn't have the signage in your parking lot. You and I were talking a couple of weeks ago that you even have to have your ADA, your handicap parking with a level with no puddling, because if there's puddling where they're putting the luggage in because it's on a grade, you're just opening yourself up. So I mean, there's a lot of things, and again, the hotel industry, they need to pay attention to what's already happened.
And just to piggyback off of that last part, because you and I were discussing that, and I found it was really interesting that in the day and age of technology, they have drones now that will
Yes.
view your property from an aerial, viewpoint, and they'll be able to see, oh, look, they have it's not leveled out and the puddle can form causing yeah, no, I
And it's X amount wide, and the sign is X amount high, and the gates are around the pool, and yeah, and then if they see that from the satellites, and these are really happening in pockets around the country, where the attorneys know, and this is interesting because if they explore it a little bit further, Michael, if they end up having an attorney call and saying we got violations for ADA and here's what it is and you're going to pay this, and you say, okay, well I want to fight it. Okay, you can fight it, but guess what? In many of those states, even if you fight it and even if you win, you cannot recover your fees from the person that lost
Ay,
because
ay, ay.
they don't have to pay. So the best thing for my hotelier clients and friends that I talk to them about, prevent it from even happening in the first place.
Yep. Yep.
Be affirmative. Don't be defensive.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, my next question for you is you place a great deal of emphasis on employees. Why are employees so central to revenue protection?
They're the first line of defense. They're the boots on the ground. They're the people that know what's going on. A great CEO should actually come back in and spend time. There was a show on TV a couple of years ago where the boss would dress up and fake and come in and he'd be
Oh, yeah,
pulling
yeah, yeah.
cable and he'd be running wire and he'd be working behind the cinnamon bun thing in the
Yeah, yeah,
thing
yeah.
and looking at the problems. I mean, that's where it is now. Unfortunately, we all know that we can go in there and the employee just doesn't know who to give the information to, doesn't know what they should and shouldn't do, but they know they're the ones that are taking the guest information. They're the ones that are taking the payment data. They're the ones that have access to the payroll information. And how many volumes of communication do hoteliers have? I mean, I've sat with many of your hoteliers over here in Texas where they've become good friends. And I look at they're putting on this hat and then they're putting on this hat and they're putting on this hat. This is where we've come out with the Defensive Revenue Management Protocol. Again, it's an architect. It's not a course. It's an architect for them to go in. They may be the manager. They may be the hotel property owner. They may be the staff. Everything will be compartmentalized for those eyes that need to see it, those eyes that need to document it. But that's why the employee is important. It's because technology can detect many of the threats. Okay. But an employee may still be the final person and the first person to squash it or make management aware of it so that it can be addressed properly. But when that frontline employee is afraid to speak up, they're not going to speak up. They're there for the paycheck, folks. Make them part of your organization. Make them feel important. Give them training. They love training because it improves their skills. That's why I say that, Michael.
Yeah, and it makes sense. You improve their skills, you boost their confidence, you boost their morale. They want to work harder, they want to be better. I mean, I'm just personal experience, the organizations that I've worked for in the past, the more, not to say the more they pampered me, because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about instilling trust and building someone up to become a better employee, which then betters your business.
Well, it is, and Michael, in today's day and age, we have. I was reading an article. I don't know how many people know Bucky's. Do you know what Bucky's
Yeah,
is?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Of course.
that started
I'm
right over
Georgia.
here
Yeah.
in West Columbia, Texas, and the whole concept was they wanted cleaner restrooms. Well, now, oh my God, I was at a Bucky's the other day over here in Texas, the biggest one in the nation, and they had I'll send it to you later, but they had the poster outside for employees, and they started about $20 an hour to make the brisket sandwich and fill the shelves, and an assistant manager can make 75,000 a year to run the gift shop, and an assistant manager that can run the kitchen can make 125,000 a year. But you know what the store manager makes?
I'm guessing probably 300.
275,000 plus. You see, you don't have to have that 4 year education. But what you have to do is put a foot on the ladder where you can start to rise up. Look at how many of my hoteliers on this call came up by managing that first property. and then they become part owner of a property. Then they become owner of multiple properties, and it's simply the stories of success from a whole of people is you could fill volumes of books. But it all starts by giving value to that employee, trusting them, giving them training that they can relate to, that can help to build their skills, whether they stay with you or they go someplace else. But give them relevant stuff. Don't make the training where, oh, we got to go to another training. This is going to be boring. No, no, this is going to be exciting times to advance their careers. And I think that's important, Michael. I really do.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Speaking of questions to ask you, I guess my next one is how is identity theft, data breaches, deep fakes, AI generated scams changing the risks facing hotels? You briefly talked about it, but
Well, give them to me one at a time. Uh, Pick it and I'll fill it in for you.
okay, fair
You're
enough. So let's start with data breaches.
okay. So data breaches. Um, IBM says that 92% of all data breaches are caused by human error. 92%. Now, if we know that to be true, and let's say it's 75% or 50%, the National Center for Cybersecurity said that this year, 60% of all small businesses, which they classify below 2,000 employees, 60% will be a victim of some sort of a cyber attack. And 20% of those will not last 6 months after it reaches its fulfillment. So, how important is it when the boots on the ground, the frontline people, the people that handle all the data all day long, whether they're in the office or they're remote, it's critical. It's critical. And the cyber security, the thieves, I'm afraid that the thieves have the biggest tool when it comes to AI. But the hotelier has the biggest tool when it comes to AI as well. So the question is, can we keep being defensive against the offensive players? And the answer is we can do a real good job about it, or we can definitely limit the liability when it does occur. But it all starts, Mike. It all starts. They are the first line of defense. And I have found, as I've spoken around the world, is that companies are spending more money on hardware, software, and IT departments and trying to get the technology and the cloud right, but they need to put that money into the employee education. That's where they need to put it in because that's the first step. That's on ID theft.
Right, right. Yeah,
Your
like
next one was what? The
yeah.
workplace bullying.
Oh yeah.
That's a
Well,
subject that most people say, I don't understand what workplace bullying is, or workplace bullying has a right in the community. It does not have a right in the community. And unfortunately, in the United States, there's only 5 states that have workplace bullying laws that we have to abide by. And they all say you got to have over 50 employees, and they're all related to public sector workers.
mm,
Workplace bullying is not a right. Workplace bullying is it's destructive behavior.
it's a
It's
threat.
it's the casual shoulder. It's the ignoring somebody. It's the slighting. It's the embarrassing them. So some people, it's just a joke. It's never a joke. It's never a joke. What I tell people is that workplace bullying is legal cruelty, is what it is, Michael. But it's not funny when you realize that 77% of the people that are victims of being bullied, 77% of them are no longer employed at that employer. They move on or they're fired or nobody believes them. And I talked about this of all places where I said that my career started in Mumbai with Ahoa. I was on stage with Guru. I'll send you the video you can have, and we were talking about this subject right here in India. It's about the workplace bullying and how destructive it is because it can cost the average hotelier or any employer out there approximately 50 to 100% of the first year salary to replace the person they lost. So you
Yeah.
didn't just lose a great employee, you lost institutional integrity. You lost institutional respect from the other employees that are still there because we didn't do something to make it a very uncomfortable environment for the bully to exist. And in the Defensive Revenue Management Protocol, we have a section just for the disruptive abuse. We don't call it workplace bullying, we call it disruptive abusive behavior that can lead to the degradation of the trust. Because again, everything in hospitality is on trust. It's built on
Yeah.
trust. So the
Yeah.
workplace problems can become a revenue problem the moment it affects attendance in the company. That's when it becomes a problem, and it doesn't get on the balance sheet until later. So
Yeah.
there's two of them. What was the third one?
Well, let's see. I don't think we covered the AI generated scams. I don't think we've done that.
Okay, that's the one that can be so damaging. It's happening at an uncanny event. I know that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I wrote my first book on AI, and in there we talked about how they could deep fake and cloning. Listen, deepfake and cloning is here. It's full
Yeah.
force, and it's real simple. You just go to Google, you put in deepfake cloning in tutorial instructions. You can download it for free. The software is free. They give you instruction tutorials. Matter of fact, there's people that will do cloning as a service.
Yeah.
We have SaaS, which is software as a service.
Yeah.
They also have cloning as a service where
Yeah.
you can pay somebody 15, 20, 30, $50 and they'll clone somebody else's voice, somebody else's impersonation.
I
Uh,
know there are programs that do it. I know I don't know if you're familiar with I think it's called Automate,
mhm.
Audiate maybe, and you can like I could have me speaking, but my voice is somebody else's voice. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's incredible. No,
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's called spoofing. Okay,
yeah.
that has been around since I was speaking about identity theft in Las Vegas in 1997 about spoofing.
Wow,
Okay,
97.
1997, because what they did was they used to sell a calling card for $20, and you could have up to 20 minutes of spoofing where you could dial any number, but they couldn't track who the number was. They couldn't track you. You could have my deep voice, but it would be a feminine coming out on the other side, a female,
Right, right.
and they would impersonate and they would actually, Mike, and they do it today, only more sophisticated. But they take that caller ID number. That's why they call it spoofing, and they change it. So it could
Right.
say Health Department, City of Houston. It
Yep.
could say AHOA.
I get
It
those
could
from
say
Wells Fargo
La Quinta
sometimes.
Inn. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's spoofing. That's just part of the cloning.
Yep.
That's part of the impersonation. But here's the worst one, and I want every hotelier to please think about this. What happens when we talk about the time of day, and let's cover that in a minute about the
Yeah.
time of day this happens to hoteliers the most. Okay,
Yeah.
is that let's say that somebody calls into the front desk and it's a Friday evening. They know that the boss is going out of town, or it's Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. They know the boss is going out of town, and somebody impersonates the hotelier on a video, just like you and I are talking right now.
Yeah.
I'm talking, I'm saying, listen, I'm getting on a plane. I'm in Dallas. I'm on my way to London. But I forgot. We got to get the payments out to this vendor. And it's got to go out today. So please go into your payroll system or go into the accounts payable and make sure this is dispatched. But I got to get on the plane. And then I hang up. And between the spoofing and the email and my voice and my image, they pay it.
Yeah. And then it's game
Now,
over.
instead,
Yep.
they have to say, okay, Frank, um, what is the passcode for me to do that? What is the secret word? What is the procedure that you have in place so that
Mm,
your staff is not fooled
you catch them.
that somebody else took a time knowing you were going out of town, knowing that you were on vacation, knowing that you were probably in the air, and they couldn't call you to confirm? And make sure they don't release anything until you do the double verification.
Makes complete sense. We actually received a question from the audience.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
it's a longer question. It's anecdotal, so I'll read it to you and then you let me know how you want to tackle it. There is a new trend for workplace bullying. One person saying another person shouting, "Stop talking," and "Stop, stop, stop," while other person started talking in meetings. And when the other person complained, he was removed from meetings and terminated. The person thought he can get away by saying stop, stop, which he thinks is not illegal to say, but is harassing and bullying behavior, is that trending at some places and agencies and companies needs to be vigilant in addressing it.
My answer to that is that at the end, you're going to see my information, my email, and my phone number. And that is a question that I will answer one-on-one because I need a lot more information to be able to give personal advice on that. But I will say with this, with workplace bullying, and then we'll move on,
Yeah.
is that, or any kind of disruptive employee behavior, okay, is that if you went to a court of law and the statements you made, whether it was on email, whether it was in the middle of a meeting, because who can record the meeting? Anybody in the meeting.
Yeah.
And they can have a camera on the left and a camera on the right and a camera in the center with the perpetrators, right? The bully in the middle, but
Yep.
he's got a lieutenant on the left and a lieutenant on the right, and
Yeah.
they're filming you and they're trying to provoke you into a situation that could come back
And bite you.
manipulated
Yep.
later.
Yep.
Okay. So in there, in the defensive revenue management protocol, we address these kind of things, especially with the live calls that I do, and tell you how to get in that position that what you said doesn't show up on a 3x5 postcard in a courtroom 6 months from now.
Right.
Okay. Don't
Right.
put yourself in that position, but know that people are out there that can put you in that position.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
That's why we call it defensive revenue management protocol.
I was just gonna
Any
say.
facet
Yeah.
that could attack your revenue is what we want to help the hoteliers understand. So I invite that person to reach out to me directly. I will be happy to
Yeah,
address it.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for answering that. And once again, for the audience, feel free to send in any questions, and I'll answer or I'll ask Frank, to answer them accordingly. So appreciate it. My next question is: ADA complaints, employment matters, contracts, regulatory concerns can become expensive quickly. Where does legal preparedness fit into DRMP?
Well, you have to be able to pick up the phone when you have these things and talk to legal advice. And I'm not talking about systems where you got to go out and pay three, four, $500,000 an hour. And I'm certainly not talking about going to Google.com. Okay. I had somebody the other day. I mean, look, if somebody just tripped and fell and you took a picture and they fell in a patch of poison ivy, you could take that picture and put it into AI, and it's going to say go down to the CVS floor and go get calamine lotion and all that. That's okay. But
Yeah,
when it comes to like that question that just came up,
yeah,
that question, what would it cost that company if that complaint went to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission? What would that cost if they had somebody that just filed a lawsuit against?
right.
Would it be easier to settle for a low figure or go in and defend yourself? Okay. So there is not always, and I'm not trying to say I didn't answer that previous question. I'm trying to say I need more information.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
either way, you need to have resources, folks, that you can lean on and you can depend on. That's what we're trying to say. So the defensive revenue management does not replace the experts. It doesn't replace them at all, just like it doesn't replace the RevBet. It helps the organization and the experts they use to have a clearer picture of what the long-term resolution should be.
yeah.
That's the key takeaway before it hits the balance sheets.
Yep. Yep. Makes sense. My next question, you did cover a lot of it. It had to do with, workplace bullying and aggressive behavior, unresolved employee conflict, things of that nature. So I will jump into, and this actually goes well with what you were just talking about. Hotels may already have HR support, insurance, attorneys, cybersecurity providers, and training. What's still missing, though?
Uh, they what they don't have in place is a system to help the experts take it to the resolution step.
Mm,
That's what they don't have. It's, well, what do I do now? Where do I turn here? I didn't think it'd get this bad. Well, there's so many ways to defend stuff, because here's the problem. Uh, and I don't want to go back too far, but do you remember when Judge Kavanaugh was trying to become a Supreme Court justice,
mm.
and all these accusations from some woman said that
Yep.
30 years prior this happened and that happened? That was horrible. That was horrible. Now, the good thing for Judge Kavanaugh is he had lots of friends with lots of money that could pay all the legal bills to defend him. What do we have as average people? We don't
Not
have
that.
those resources. We don't have those powerful friends. So we have to position ourselves and our valuable employees in a position that they don't fall to that trick. Because here's what happened because of that one incident in the Supreme Court justice potential nomination. It started a Me Too movement. It started with, oh, I can level claims too that are 20, 30, 40 years old. When he was dating me and he didn't treat me right, and we were at that steakhouse,
Right.
and three or four of my girlfriends, they may not remember, but they were there and you can talk to them. No, no, we can't put ourselves in that position. We have to document. We have to
Yeah.
document. Michael, let me go backwards. Let me go back to the ADA. Let me go back
Yep.
to the facility. Let me go back to having accountability with our management. Wouldn't it be great if the hoteliers could document that they were proactive and not reactive? And I give this example of a small airport where you got a small plane and the pilot is out there with a little checklist. He's looking at the tires, he's looking at the wings, he's looking at the tail lights. And then they get in the front seat and you got the co-pilot and the pilot and check, 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 check. Wouldn't it be great if the hoteliers were actually doing that with all their areas of responsibility? And they have a complete checkoff system where the general manager has continuity across multiple properties. The independent that only has one or two properties, they still have documentation that, hey, we did this then, we did this here, we did this here, and here's our forms, here's our paperwork. That's what people need to be doing today. They need to be able to defend without getting excessive with training and cost and fees. And they don't have that with the Defensive Revenue Management Protocol. Okay. They don't have that. They have access to real world information that can help them at different levels. And then they can always ask for a further consultation later, or they could ask, well, I need resources in this and resources in this and this. We can guide them to the resources they need.
And I know that and to take it all the way back to the beginning of this, that this isn't a sales pitch. This is
No,
preemptive measures. You're saying that, it doesn't hurt to just spend 15 minutes talking to you. I know it's, as expensive as a cup of coffee, so to speak.
yeah, yeah.
It's something that, because a lot of what you're talking about, I'm hearing a reoccurring theme, which is, and it goes with the whole title of this session is, but I'm going to take it a little further, is preemptive measures to make sure that before any of these possible bad things could happen to you, whatever arena, you have protected yourself. And I'm sure, to your point, don't put yourself in a position to where 15 years from now you're going, "Oh, I should have done that thing 15 years ago." You know? So,
So that goes with my lesson. I teach the five P's, like, right?
yeah.
Prior planning prevents poor performance.
Yep.
Prior planning prevents poor performance. That could sum it up. It's not a one-time event. It's a repeatable cycle of detection, protection, preparation, documentation, and then annual review, and then
Right.
repeat the process. So again, detection, protection, preparation, documentation, and review. It's simple. It's
Yeah.
simple. And
Yeah.
a 15-minute, listen, at the very least, spend 15 minutes with me. Let's look at what you're doing. And you may be doing everything great. And you might say, I need a little bit of help here. No problem. Be happy to
Yep.
talk.
Yep. So another question for you, and I know we're doing a lot of back and forth, kind of covering some of it. DRMP, and it's not intended to replace a hotel's attorney or HR team or insurance advisor or any of those things. Like, correct? Like, I'm hearing that that's not the intention here.
It's not. It's not. It's to support them. It's to
Right.
support them. It's to enable them, because they might be saying, "Hey, well, we're not covering that as deep as we want to, as we should." No problem. Here's some resources.
Yep.
Protect the hotelier.
Yep. Yep. And speaking of hoteliers and different types of hoteliers, this can work for an independent hotel as well as a management company operating dozens of properties, correct?
It also works for all the school systems that I work with, and works with hospitals as well. You see, every business has these problems. Revenue management is not a brand new thing. It's just that you got to tie them all together. But what's unique is AHOA has a complete package that can help them, because, again, so many of your hoteliers, especially the independents and the first time, second generation, third generation, I know we got all that. Here in Texas, we got several owners that 25, 30, 50 properties. But do they have continuity in all 50 properties? Or is that property based on one general manager?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is really good for your management firms too, guys, because if you can start checking off everything and have a playbook, have a blueprint that covers all the different topics we talked about today, then you're prepared, then you're documented, then you're not blindsided. Then you can start spotting the gaps. You can see employees that are rising to the task. You can see others that are not. So it takes a while, but it's
It's
not to
worth it.
replace any of your professionals. None of them. None of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one more question for you, but I did want to have another opportunity for any of the audience members to send you any questions. I'll just leave the floor open for just a few moments while I ask you the final question, which is, what should a hotelier do after watching this conversation if they are unsure where their greatest exposure may be?
Invite them to the confidential 15-minute revenue protection review. The purpose is to determine, the purpose is to, see where exposures may not exist, what deserves immediate attention. But again, they can't even, if it's virtual, they can't even buy me a cup of coffee. If you're in Texas or Louisiana or Arkansas or Oklahoma, which I'm in those areas all the time. Uh, let's get together, and then you can buy me the cup of coffee. Okay, but let's discuss where you're at, and because, again, and it's not just, Michael. You hit on it a little bit ago. It's not just for your hotelier business, guys. Some of the hoteliers have insurance companies. Some of them have construction companies. Some of them, their family members may have schools. Okay, employees are employees. Customer issues are customer issues. Regulatory, when it rains in Houston, Texas, it rains on everybody equally, whether you're
Hmm.
male or female, rich or poor, a Democrat or a Republican. It doesn't matter. It
Yep.
rains. So
Yep.
when bad things happen to good people, do you have the resources that are available to you to sort them out? That, I think, that's what it is. So the first step is not buying protection. It's about finding out where you may have the gaps.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I love that.
There's
Uh,
there's three questions. There's three questions, Mike, that I'd like everybody to ask themselves.
yeah.
What could create the greatest preventable loss to them? That's one question they need to ask themselves. Number two would be, would your employees recognize it early? And number three is, would they know exactly what to do and who to contact? Because
Yeah.
if not, and Mike, you and I talked about the clerk, 11 o'clock at night, gets that suspicious ID when they ask for their identification, gets that specific question. It is just something they sense is wrong.
Yeah.
What do they do at 11 o'clock on a Friday night? Had they gone through the training to be aware of those, to escalate it? Or did they just say, oh, well, it's my job. Uh, I got my 40 hours in.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, a lot to think, a lot to consider. I have your information up again just for those who want to contact Frank. Uh, Frank, as always, I learn so much every time I talk to you about pretty much everything. So I want to thank you again for joining us for another Hotel Owners Academy for
Mhm.
the attendees. I appreciate you all showing up and hopefully you were able to gain something. As I mentioned, his information is on the screen, so feel free to reach out to Frank. I'm sure you'll be part of future webinars and all of that. Maybe a HoaCon 2027, who knows? I do want to say that this has been recorded, so we will upload the video next week. And I'll share it with all the attendees who registered or who couldn't attend and to make sure everyone's able to view it. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate everything you do.
No, it's my pleasure. And again, folks, just give me a call, 15 minutes. Least we can do is make a new friend. But I appreciate you, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Frank.
Okay, guys.
Take care.
Bye bye.